Matt Boeggeman, welcome to the Preconstruction podcast.
Thank you very much.
Matt has kindly let me know that he is the first Holder employee to do a podcast, so there's lots of pressure.
As far as I know. Maybe somebody else has done it.
Could be the first and last.
Yeah, it could be first and last. It could be a short run.
We'll go easy on you.
Okay.
So Matt, for anybody that doesn't know you, I'll go through, let's start at the beginning.
Sure.
When you were in high school, was it always construction for you, or what was the thought process?
No. No, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do through most of high school. I was always pretty good at math and science. So I started my college career at the University of Florida. I was actually an aerospace engineering major, and I did that for 2.5 or 3 years before I realized that I didn't want to do engineering anymore. And I was looking for something else, to do. I decided after I didn't want to do engineering, I decided that I wanted to go to school for business.
Nice.
The problem is, I had done engineering for several years and my GPA was in rough shape, and I didn't meet the College of Business prerequisites.
Right.
So I had to find a program that I could get into that their prerequisites were very similar to the College of Business, so I could just hang out there for a little while, do those courses, and then transfer. So at the University of Florida, that was the School of Building Construction. So I went and met with Sally Shatner, who is an advisor, and she asked me several questions about why I wanted to do construction. I lied to her face, sorry Sally, and said I wanted to do building construction. And I got registered for the classes, I started taking the classes, and I just realized that it was kind of a perfect fit for what I wanted to do. Construction is a very interesting blend of technical side, engineering, math, very technical work, and business. It's a perfect blend of those two things. You have to have a risk and business mind and understand that side of things, as well as you have to be able to run some complicated math sometimes and know how things go together. So they were the best courses I'd ever taken, and I've been in construction ever since.
They were so good you went and did a master's?
Yes, so I graduated with my bachelor's in 2010, and at the time there was a big economic downturn. So I decided to stay on and work on my master's coursework. I completed all of the coursework for my master's and was ready to start writing my thesis, and then got an opportunity to come work for Holder. So I never got around to the thesis, didn't actually totally finish the master's, but did all the coursework and have been with Holder ever since.
Love it. And we're going to talk about that now, because your success with Holder over the 14 years, building your career, we're going to talk about the secret to that. You went in 14 years from when you started up to senior pre-con manager. But before we do that, I love your short stints on the HVAC side.
Sure.
What did you learn there?
Yeah, so I did work with a residential and small commercial HVAC company. It was my dad's. They were mostly during summers in college. And we would pull up, I'd be in his truck, we'd pull up to a house in the morning, and this was in Tampa, Florida in the summer. And he'd look at me and he said, one of us has to get up in the attic and tear out all the old ductwork. And he didn't have to say the rest, because it was me. So I spent a lot of time over the summer in attics or working on residential HVAC. My dad ran a successful business for a long time in Florida. He was always very technically minded, working, he was kind of a Mr. Fix-It. He could do anything you need to do with cars or appliances or HVAC or building, lay tile, any of it.
Brilliant.
So
good with his hands, yeah.
Yeah, just he'd always grown up doing that, and when I was younger, I didn't always realize the value of that. And as I've gotten older, I've kind of found myself wishing I'd maybe paid a little more attention.
We're all the same, trust me, man.
Yeah. But I do my best, I enjoy working with my hands, and changing brakes on cars is not overly technically complicated, but it makes me feel good to take some time on a Saturday and do it.
Exactly, I love it. And then your career, I mean, going in at basically the bottom at Holder and working your way up to senior pre-con manager, what's the secret? Like, what did you find that helped you along the way? If there was somebody in here now listening or listening on the podcast that's maybe a mid-level estimator, wants to get to that level, what's the secret?
Oof. There's a lot of folks in construction that are really smart. I've found that that's very important, but what sometimes is more important is grit and the focus on always learning and always challenging yourself.
Yeah.
If I ever did something, whether it was a small, straightforward, entry-level task, right? We put together scope sheets, just like everybody does, right? I was going to do the absolute best job I could on that scope sheet. And if I did it again, I was going to do better. I was going to take what I learned on the first one, and I just kind of incrementally get better at everything. When I was an engineer, early senior engineer, I would regularly go into folks' offices that had offices, private offices, and I'd say, what are you working on and how can I help you do that, right? And like kind of force them to give me a little piece of what they were working on. And I don't know if that's helped, but it's been fun and interesting. I got to work on some pretty interesting data center site selections and early concept estimates that I probably wouldn't have been exposed to otherwise. But yeah, I think a lot of it is not a lot. Some of it is just luck.
Well,
you know,
if you listen to my podcast, I don't believe in luck, man.
Yeah.
Now, there's two things that stand out to me there, and it's something I've been writing about on LinkedIn recently, is you can have all the experience in the world and all the technical ability in the world, but if you don't have the right attitude, then you're going to struggle.
Yes.
So attitude and grit, I like those two things, and I would say that's why you're now senior pre-con manager at Holder. So let's talk about those projects you mentioned. Holder as a company, obviously a huge data center builder. We know obviously with the AI boom, it's only going to get busier.
Yes.
You guys are going to be busy, I would imagine. Tell us a little bit about the data center market and building.
As you mentioned, it's booming. There's a lot of work out there. It's really good work. It's challenging. We've been very fortunate, in my personal opinion, to work for very sophisticated and very demanding customers that have expected a lot of us. And it's kind of like if you have somebody that you work out with, right? You kind of push each other to be the best version of yourself, right? It helps to have somebody kind of with very high expectations pushing you to the next level. So we've been lucky to have great clients that do that. It is a very busy market. Staying on top of capacity, our own and just markets in general, helping to advise clients where we can very early on in the pre-construction process. It's a lot every day. It constantly changing.
You mentioned there it's a lot, right, Matt? And we all know pre-construction estimators are shouting at this podcast now saying, we're the same, I'm completely stretched, I'm working too many hours. A couple of things that can help that, and I know it's something that you've been interested in and working on for the last couple of years, is data and pre-construction technology.
Yes.
Tell us about that kind of roadmap. Why did you kind of gravitate towards it? Did you see the value in it? And how's it looking now? And talk us through it.
That's a great question. When I started, I knew nothing about it. And for most of my career, I probably wasn't thinking about data and technology and things of that nature. I just, through my career, I would do things and see things and I'd say, well, why are we doing it that way? Can we do it different? How could we do it different? How could we do it smarter? If I'm putting together an estimate, why am I looking through the last 5 jobs to find good unit prices to reference to put into an estimate? Can't there be some kind of system that could put all that together and I could just look it up? Same thing with projects. We do conceptual estimates for owners, and it would take days to understand the project, find other past projects that kind of fit the profile, look up information about those projects, and put together an Excel spreadsheet that kind of put everything next to each other and came up with a good cost for a project. Today, with technology, that doesn't have to be the case. You can get to a better result quicker by organizing your information and having it available. There's several steps to that, obviously, but that realization kind of clicked for me 2018-ish, 2017, 2018. And even with something as simple as staffing, right? Our company is a little bit different in the fact that we are one company, coast to coast. We don't have different business units or territories or profit centers. We're all the same, and that is especially true in pre-construction. I sit in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've worked in projects in Washington State, down to Texas, up to the Northeast, Pennsylvania, everywhere in between. Where I sit has very little to do with the projects that I'm working on. And that is true for most of our department. We're spread out across 8 offices, and we just try to take care of our clients nationally. And managing the workload, if you think of a pre-construction process, you have times where you're estimating and then times where you're not and you're communicating with the owner, and then times you're procuring and then times that you're not, right? So jobs do this kind of thing, right? With the staff, and how do you know when people are going to be busy and not, and when to commit them to new things? And I said, well, we ought to be able to figure that out a little bit, right? You can put facts to things, and so it really covers, I think data-based solutions can really help us in most aspects of what we do every day. So I got really focused in that, and then a couple years ago, we realized that we had a dire need to evolve our estimating software. We had the same estimating software for a long time, and it was kind of on its last legs from a technology standpoint. So we took a lot of time, did a market analysis of different estimating softwares that were available. We eventually settled on Destiny Estimator for a number of reasons. We wound up rolling that out. That was early last year that we rolled it out. And then, using the data that we were able to capture with that software and some other softwares that we built, we've been able to pull all of that together and develop kind of an internal cost system that I've been working on since probably mid last year, that help our people do all the things that we mentioned quicker and easier, so they don't have to spend their time going and looking things up.
Brilliant.
And now
so you set that up yourself. So that was a system that you used. Will that system now be replaced by Destiny, or will that work coherently?
It works in harmony with it.
Nice.
So what we did is, it was a little easy. I want to use the term easy because we had a vision that we put together for what we needed, and it was simply the solution to all of the things that bugged us, right? Like, I want to be able to do this better. How do you do it better? I want this. Okay, if I want this, what do I need to capture to give me this? So then you figure out all those things you need to capture, and then you say, okay, how am I going to capture this? And how am I going to organize it and categorize it so that I can use it? Destiny's a huge piece of that, right? Where we capture all of the costs associated with our estimates through the platform, in addition to a couple other details. That goes into a database. We have a lot of project information, square feet, parking spaces, kilowatts of data center power, things like that, properties of projects that are kind of in a separate database that we have. And then we have what we call a manual cost database, where anybody in the company can go, and if they see a random cost on a quote that they think would be worth it, they can log it and enter it into our database. And then using the software we've developed, we can call all of that information up and look at just individual costs, all regionally adjusted and cost escalated, because we work across the country. And we can also use it to build metrics. So if I wanted to look at all of our data center projects in terms of cost per square foot, well, I know all of the costs and I know all the square feet. So it kind of does the math to figure that out and regionally adjust and cost escalate and give me some graphs with that information. And with that, I could say, what is my electrical in terms of dollars per square feet, dollars per kW, and does that make sense with the estimate that I just put together? Am I in the guardrails or not?
Well, here's a question for you. I'm going to put you on the spot. If a client came to you, a tech client came to you and says, I want to build a data center in one of your locations, Texas, let's say, for instance, how close percentage-wise do you think you could get? Well, conceptual, by the way.
Conceptually, probably pretty close.
2-3%?
Yeah,
that's good. That's amazing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, as estimators and pre-con folks, I would imagine that's all that they're looking for, that level of certainty to give the client.
Yeah, it's data centers. I know that was just a offhand case that you would say. Data centers are really interesting cases because of how much they evolve and grow and change, and how much you learn during the process, and how much things will change on a day-to-day basis. So it is reassuring to many of our clients that we have a lot of expertise, and we can, with a high degree of certainty, say, here are all of the past projects we've done with you, and here's where we think you're going to land on this one, and here's how it compares to all of your other past projects. And there are a number of our clients here. Brian at Stack, we work with him a lot, and I know there's some folks from Aligned here, and they're two clients of ours that we enjoy working with, and we're able to do those kinds of analyses with them, and that supports them in being able to understand the business case and the pro forma of work that's coming up, and helps them plan for timing of going after data centers.
Amazing stuff, because we know how complex data centers can be. I mean, you mentioned there the mechanical, electrical, and piping side of things. I mean, it must stand for a huge amount of the total cost of a data center right now.
Yes.
Give us an insight into how complex it is on those, particularly those systems. And obviously, they're very different to the household or the residential systems, HVAC systems that you would have been working on.
They are different. But I always like describing the complexity of the systems using systems that most folks are familiar with, right? If you think of your electrical coming in, right? You've got an electrical panel, and that goes out to different plugs and such, right? You get the power at the same voltage that it goes out, usually. Sometimes you get it at 220, right? But it goes out at, or 240, and it goes out at 120. So you're kind of splitting the power up at the panel level. But in data centers, those will be transformers that step power down, and then power goes out to other sets of gear that break it down further. So it's really just a more complicated extension of the same thing that you have in your house.
Wow.
With more equipment that manages the quality of that power. And if you had a desktop computer in the early 2000s, chances are you had a really big, heavy, black brick under the computer that you plugged in. There was an uninterruptible power. So if your house lost power, your computer didn't immediately turn off, right? One of the biggest pieces of gear in a data center is a UPS system. It does that, so it's just a really big, more complicated version of that. So most people have seen and touched or are aware of the same kinds of systems. It's at a different scale and a different level of complexity. But you have backup power generators and uninterruptible power supplies. On the mechanical side, it's very similar. You have your HVAC at home. You have outside probably a condenser unit, and inside, I'm losing the term right now, but you have a coil, and you have a fan that blows through the coil that cools your house, and you've got ductwork that takes it where it needs to go. Well, sometimes the condenser unit looks like a really big chiller instead, and sometimes instead of having a coil and a fan blowing through it that sits in a box in your crawl space or attic, it's a really big piece of equipment that blows air very quickly across a data center floor.
Talk to me about the chip cooling systems.
Oh wow!
That's in the news quite a lot now.
It is. It's evolving rapidly. There are some really interesting emerging technologies of how to cool chips. Of course, traditionally you blew air into the data center floor. There were fans in the servers that would blow the air across the servers and pull the heat out via the air. There are new processing units where you can actually cool the computer at the chip level. It has a piece on the chip, and it brings cold water all the way, or a cooled liquid, sometimes it's not always water, all the way to the chip or to the rack, and it draws that heat directly into the liquid and sends it out of the data center, and that liquid is cooled and recirculated. So it's a much more efficient thermal transfer than via the air.
Amazing. It's amazing stuff. You mentioned they're not always water. What else would it be?
I don't know what our agreements are with different companies.
Okay, right. Skip that one.
Yeah.
Very good. That's interesting. I mean, we just hear about it all the time, and it fascinates me. What excites you now mostly about four things. What excites you about pre-construction? What excites you about AI, technology, data centers? What's the next, without breaking any confidential agreements?
Sure. The speed at which change is happening is increasing. There's a lot of folks that talk about AI and say, AI is coming. It's not coming.
It's here.
It's here. And if you think it's coming, you're probably a little behind-ish. So I think figuring out how to leverage it to the best that we can is really important. That's one of the things that I'm pretty focused on. How do you engage with it? How do you leverage it? I think figuring out how to work in harmony with it. There's a lot of folks that seem to worry about AI. Is it going to take my job? Is it going to replace me? Can I trust it? And I think it's going to be a really big partner for us to promote the efficiency of what we do, and it'll have a big impact on the industry, a positive one. I think what I'm most excited about is trying to trying to look ahead, trying to read the tea leaves of what that could look like in 5 or 10 years. How will the industry change with AI based on where it's going today? And then how do we align ourselves to take biggest advantage of that? That's pretty exciting. And
it's funny, just something I picked up on. You mentioned 2017, 2018. That's when you kind of made the decision that you needed technology to help you with the data and the decision making at a conceptual level. That was early when you consider that most general contractors at this conference are still using Excel, right? So you can imagine how they're going to try and jump from Excel to AI. But it's like anything, unless you embrace change, then how far do you want to be? Do you feel as if you're going to have to be left behind before your business just doesn't exist anymore?
Yeah, it's going to be really challenging, and I know it's kind of it's a almost trite thing to say, right? You don't always want to be on the bleeding edge of technology because there's a lot of failure there, and there's a lot of hard lessons there that if you're smart, you can let other people kind of learn those lessons and learn from them. And that's a reason that I've heard used as as a resistance to embracing change. With AI, I'm still in the same spot, but it's like you have to be really close to that edge before you hit the get left behind zone. And I think the way you just put it is pretty accurate with that concept. It's I want to provide our people with the best opportunities and work environment and career that I can. And Holder wants to do that for all our people in pre-construction especially. And I owe it to our people to give them the tools to be as effective as possible with the time that they have so that they can make high quality decisions with high quality information and do it in a way that, you don't have to work 12 hours every day like you did a decade ago. The workplace has changed a bit in that way, and there's some of me that likes the good old days. I was there, where if you left at 5 o'clock, people looked at you funny, like, what are you doing? And now that's a little more common. But overall, the productivity for each person is still way up, and we're doing way more with less people. That's efficiency, and that's making sure that all of those people can be as effective as possible. And that leads to quality of life for those people. They can go home and be with families, do what they enjoy doing. So,
Matt, I couldn't have put it better myself, and we're going to finish on that because that was absolutely brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Now, if there is anybody listening to this podcast and they said, you know what, Matt touched on a couple of things there, how would I go about dropping a message on LinkedIn or contacting them?
LinkedIn's probably the best way, and feel free to shoot me a message there, and happy to strike up a conversation.
Love it. As always, folks, I will put Matt's LinkedIn profile down below. You can click on it, drop me a message if you have any questions, otherwise connect with them and share some stories. Matt, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.